There's a lovely picture for you folks. This is going to be a hare. I've been asked to do this a few times, so here goes. I'm going to start with the ear. I'll bring you closer. Start by using the white pencil, working in the direction that I see the fur lying in. There's a very sharp white edge there, which always looks great on finished pictures. So that's that. And then it opens up here to, again, a very, very light area, solid white. And then as we break back into it, we just a little bit left because I'm going to put ivory in there and tick. So it's solid where the white's at its most prominent. And the other thing I've got to be careful of here, because I put a light in there, but really I think I need to take some of that off. Better. It's going to be a dark marking in there, but that was a bit too harsh. And it's likely to show through. Okay, ivory now then. That goes up close. It's very dark here. That's great. Now under this one, I'm going to put ivory under here because it is actually a brown, but it's weakened by these other colours, and there's sort of spots of ivory in it. So I'm going to try to treat that in a slightly different way. I mean, now we can finish the little bit more white around here, and then it's dark grey. This is, I'm going to put grey in here to start with. It's very dark, so I think there's no point in messing about with the lighter colours. I'm using 273. We're going to keep this on the warm side rather than the cool side. I should say earth colour really, rather than warm, although it is warm. And that can come back in now. This area here, this is white here, needs to have some of the grey into it. Like that. It's solid more there, but it actually comes in. Now I can bring the white back, so I'm not too worried about it. And we'll put some ivory in that in a minute. Okay, now here we come down here with the grey, and it finishes about there. The idea is this, these are hairs that are going, this is the inside of the ear, and that's what we're doing at the moment. Right, now that's got that. Then we need more solid than that. Now as it drops down here, it kind of changes from the grey to the brown, which is the same brown as we're going here. So we need ivory underneath it. Not a great deal of colour in this, or variations of colour I mean. They're all very much white, ochre, grey, brown, which is going to make life a bit easier. Now I did say that that's got to have ivory in there, and it has. And just here, again, there's quite a lot of ivory in here, so I might as well do a little bit of ivory there, but I need to put some white in first, because it's got a very light ivory, so the white goes under first. That's good. I won't do that one. I'll leave that for the moment because that's exactly the same as a carbon copy of this one. So once we've done this, that will follow on. Okay, so let's think about now the next colour. Up in the tip here, I've already put some ivory on there, but what I'm going to do is going to put there's a little bit of orangey colour in there. It's very unusual, but I'm going to put it in. Yeah, a bit of orange. Mixed with the ivory and the white, you get that sort of creamy look. That's all there is. It's going to look great when we finish it. Now we'll use the ivory just to whittle it back a bit. That's great. Now I'm going to put the dark in at the moment because what I really want to do is to start the ball rolling on this area here. Now this area is... I'm going to try a couple of colours just to see whether that one works any better. I'm using 182. I think I might actually use 182 and 180 together. Yeah, that looks nice. Okay. You see, because having the ivory underneath that has created quite a nice base for me. It doesn't really matter if you mix the two together, or you want to put one on and then another, but I think that looks quite nice. And I'm going to put a darker colour on there in a minute as well. Now this is where we have the edge, but that, although I put a line there, that's not going to interfere because we're going to be covering it. And then that comes down in here. I've also got another colour. I just want to just test this out as well. Oh, that's great. Well, I'm coming back with that in a minute. That's 179. I don't need it yet. I just wanted to test the water. It's either that going to be that or the 177. I'm not sure quite what. Here we've got grey, but we've also got some brown. It's a mixture of the grey and the brown. And that will come in on the edge like that. And then we've got the ivory. I've got a feeling I'm going to like this picture. I love the combination of colours that we have. Okay, let's make that a little darker. Yeah, now. A little bit more pressure on it. And we want to do the same over the back. And we're going to use the 182 and 180. Now we have some ivory there showing through, a bit like it's over here, only more so. Run up the back there. This is where the ivory is showing through. It'll be a bit more obvious once I put the darker colour on in a minute. But we also have to think about it being a bit like that. Lovely. Now let's give this other one a go now. This is 179. It gives us the extra punch that we need. But it's not all over. just do this one. I like the combination of colours, the browns. Now, just there, this is where we get the crossover between the grey and the black, which will eventually be there, and the brown. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out at the top. It's mainly in an area just there where we have the ivory colour coming through. That's great. Now there's another colour I'm going to add to this as well, and that is 175. 175 is a much more earthy tone than the ones we've had, but it's going to be subdued by the colours already put on. So although it's going to be darker, it's giving me exactly the colour I want and the tone that I want. If I'd used it on its own, it would have been too harsh. So you have to have a colour underneath it, and that's very good. Watch the difference here. I'll stop halfway up and you'll see the difference that the 175 actually makes to the picture. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about the texture here, whether I'm going to leave the texture as it is or I'm going to use a colour shaper. I should make that decision. Now up here this is going to be easier now because we've got the 175, and the 175 is a colour I'm going to put on here next before we put the black on. That's going to work very well. Let me just do that now, as you'll see. Squiggle. You've got to push it into the paper. When we put the black on, we want to make sure the black registers without the board having been crushed. So although I'm pressing reasonably hard with this, it's not enough to create a problem with the paper. I would have a problem then. Come back in here. This is on top of the grey that we've already put in there, and the brown. It's a little bit more obvious when you get down to here. That's lovely. Now that's worked out really well. A little bit more colour. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the colour shaper. Make sure it's clean. And I'm going to just touch this. I'm not going to rub it too much. I just want to push it in so that we have a less of a texture, but we keep the separation. Now, when I do that, I'm also going to use it. Yeah, that's clever, Carl. How do you do that? Well, what's happening is I'm picking up some of the colour. I'm almost using this section like a palette because it's quite dark, but I don't particularly want to put the dark in there. So remember, we can always put back the white. You see? It's good. Now let's see what we can do with this as well. It's quite a new-ish technique that I've developed, and I've used it a few times. You may have already seen it on other projects. I've got to be careful when I come into the dark colour because I don't necessarily want the dark, I just want this brown. You see how easy it is to pull the colour off. Now, it wouldn't be really too much of a problem if I decided to put the colour in on the white, top of the white, but this does save. It gives a subtlety which I haven't got. Okay, just a little bit more. I'm going to add just a little bit more brown now. Yes, I think this is the one. 179 will be the colour. Just on the very edge of this, because in a second or two we'll be using the black. Which is going to be now. Now this is on top of the grey, then on top of the 175. Now when you come down here, this is where we have this crossover. It's when you get to about there, it stops. And what we can do then is just marry those two together. Great. Down here, got a scary job in a minute. I've got to put that white back on top of this black. It's going to be fun. It has to be done because, although that doesn't look too bad like that, it's a little bit wanting in as much as it's not quite right. Now that's going to be quite dark in there as well. Using the browns and the colours we've got, that's more or less as I want it. Okay, that's looking good now. See that change of tone that I had? Now right at the top here we have an interesting situation. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use the orange again, and I'm going to kind of fuse it to the black, right, like that. Coming back with the ivory, and we put just a little bit more of that in there. And then the black can come back up closer to it. It doesn't look quite as foreign that way. You really just see that on top. I didn't realise I was so close to the edge. I'm concentrating on what I was doing. And we're going to do the same thing here, but this time we're going to do it with the brown. Where's that brown I had? Where's my brown? I don't usually use pencils this early on. This is 179. Again, we want to do the edge of it. If you don't do this, you have the black hitting the white. That's a good brown going. Then we just pull that brown in. That's good. Now, just before I go, I'm just going to put a few, just pick up on some of those little ivory areas that I was talking about leaving. Oh, that's good enough. That's good enough. I like it. I'm just going to add just a little touch of another colour which we'll be using later on, which is 187. And I'm just going to make 187 just a little bit. I'm going to make it a little bit richer up the top, on top of the orange. That looks good. Now I'm going to sharpen the pencil up now with my white pencil, and we're going to go in here with this bit. Now just before I do that though, I just want to make sure that we've got some shading in there. Now you might think, looking at that, you might think I'm ruining it now, but I know what the white is capable of. And just also just pick up that edge a little bit like that. And 175 as well. Just make sure it's solid. I should probably have to go back over this a little bit at another time, because although I've given you the basic idea, there's still, in fact, I've just seen a couple of areas really there. I'll do that in a minute. Anyway, let me sharpen the white up, and then I can take you through this next rather tricky process. This is a tricky process. What we've got to do is to use a sharp white, and you bring it back in over the top of the back. Twist the pencil as you do it. Here's the problem. You've got to have the sharp whites, but of course they break. This is why I always start the ball rolling, as you saw, with the bringing the dark into the white. It makes it just a little bit easier. There you get there in the end. And this will get right up the top, and there we are, the top. Now that's tricky, very tricky. But I don't know any other way of doing that, but you get that wonderful effect. Okay, so that's more or less it there. That's one ear done. Now we've got to do the other one. Now what I'll do here, I won't narrate this. I shall do it little bits and bits. All the things you've already seen me do over here, I'll do over here. But you'll see me doing it in little bits and pieces rather than, in the full whack like that. But you can refer to this and any narration. You just look at it again. Okay, so let's get that done. I've brought you back in again at the finishing touches to this here. This is the black going on. And that comes all the way down there. I've got to darken that bit in the middle, in that second or two. Now the black goes on, it goes down as far as there, and then it fades into the brown. Slightly different to that here because we're seeing a bit more of the inside of the ear. And that fades off. And then the black can continue down there. We've got to put a little bit of orange on the top here, that we did before. And then it goes into the white. And what I did before, I put a little bit of 187 in there as well. It's just a little bit richer. That's nice, good. Okay, we've finished the black off there, and we bring the white back in. Oh, white, a little bit to finish that off. Okay, now what I want to do now is I'm going to darken that bit. What I've used here is a 177. Now we haven't used this yet, 177, but I'm going to add it a little bit to here as well. But I saw it here first of all, and it's a little richer than the 175. So I'm now putting it into the black as well, and that can be then faded out to there. I'd already put some of that in. And that can be the colour that we can just... But I want to leave it lightish there. Don't want to put too much. Now on the other side we can do the same thing. We can put just a little bit of that to darken a little bit there. And we can do the same thing here. Now this is where we can add it the other side. I didn't think of it before, but this prompted me into thinking, yes, that's a good idea. It's a nice tone, 177, one of my favourite colours. You couldn't use it instead of the other colours, you've just got it as well as. That looks pretty good to me. Now I just want to make sure that that is a bit smoother before we go back in with the white. You don't want any problems. Once we put the white in, we don't want to go back over it again. Right, that's good. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit of white to this area, brighten it like we did on the other side. Before you do that, you want to make really, really sure that you are ready for it, like this edge, for instance. Yep, I'm pretty happy with that, so let's go with a nice sharp white here and add it here. I actually did do a little bit more over here, you didn't see this, but I did mean to do it, but I'll show you on here anyway how that comes up.